In the world of dazzling success stories, we occasionally encounter dark corners where the glow of fame and wealth is obscured by the shadows of crime. Join us as we delve into today's tale, not just to understand a case, but to pose profound questions about human nature and the price of misguided decisions. It reminds us that no one, no matter how wealthy or powerful, is above the law. Let's travel back to the winter of 2021 in Canada to uncover this story. Around 7 p.m. on February 28, 2021, in the city of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, the bitter cold of winter had set in. The temperature had dropped below freezing, and a light snowfall dotted the sky. At 347 Arvin Avenue, a young woman named Jordan Romano experienced the most painful moment of her life as she was shot in the chest. In a state of panic, she gritted her teeth against the pain, put her car in reverse, and sped away. However, she didn't get far before crashing into the curb and coming to a stop. At this point, one hand clutched her bleeding chest wound, while the other struggled to open the car door. Worse still, she realized that her legs could no longer support her. She was forced to crawl using her hands and knees, every movement hindered by the bone-chilling cold that made her body shiver uncontrollably. The parking lot was just a few dozen meters ahead, but for Romano, it seemed infinitely far. A powerful fear and an intense will to live pushed her to keep crawling forward. She kept telling herself she had to survive, especially since she was 13 weeks pregnant. Hamilton is a city known for its heavy industry, with a large industrial area. Romano's accident occurred in this industrial zone. While the area is bustling with workers during the day, it becomes almost deserted at night. When Romano managed to crawl to the roadside, she desperately waved for help. Under the dim streetlights, her consciousness began to fade. She knew she couldn't hold on much longer. Luckily, a car drove by, turned around, and headed back towards her. A woman inside the car asked in surprise what had happened. Romano told her she had been shot and pleaded with the woman to help her get into the car and leave. The woman immediately got out to assist her and instructed her boyfriend to call the police. Upon receiving the report, the police quickly arrived at the scene. The caller, Annette Bride, reported that she and her boyfriend were on their way to a gas station when they noticed something on the left side of the road in the industrial area. At first, it looked like an animal, but they couldn't be sure. After driving a bit further, sensing something was wrong, they turned around and found Romano crawling along the roadside. After securing the industrial area, Detective Mac Miller, who was in charge of the investigation, found Romano's black high heel on the concrete pavement of the parking lot. Not far from the shoe, there were some car fragments. Near the warehouse gate, the police discovered that the chain lock had been cut, suggesting an unauthorized entry into the industrial area. A green metal wall at the entrance was dented, with car debris scattered on the ground, indicating where Romano had likely crashed while reversing. Following the path, the police discovered a man lying behind a building. He was on his back with his arms spread wide, surrounded by 7 9mm shell casings and 2 unused bullets. The autopsy revealed that the man had been shot 6 times, with 1 bullet hitting his left lung, causing severe blood loss. His left lung alone had lost 2.2 liters of blood, indicating that he didn't die immediately from the gunshots, but gradually from excessive bleeding. Near the body, investigators found a $5 Canadian bill and a plane ticket from Vancouver, British Columbia, to Toronto. The name on the ticket was Tyler Pratt, the man lying on the ground. According to the investigation, Tyler was born on August 13, 1982, and had a complex family background. His parents divorced when he was young. His mother, who had a PhD in theology from Wagner University, opened a hair salon after the divorce, becoming a well-known bridal hairstylist and makeup artist. Perhaps due to the lack of his mother's love, Tyler became rebellious after his father remarried, gradually going astray as he grew up. To make money, he started dealing drugs. Although he had connections with many gangs in the Vancouver area, Tyler saw himself purely as a businessman, focusing solely on drugs and money without ever getting involved in guns or violence. Over the years, thanks to his relationships and reputation, Tyler became one of the most notorious drug dealers in the Vancouver area. Even though his transactions could reach millions of dollars in a single day, Tyler remained very cautious and only dealt in cash. He had no credit cards, no bank deposits, and didn't own any property. However, as he accumulated wealth, Tyler began considering how to launder his money. To this end, Tyler founded Hard as Diamond, a company specializing in custom diamond jewelry. He also launched a premium healthcare product brand called Elite Organics. Despite these ventures, the revenue from both businesses was still limited, and the cash flow was insufficient. He was eager to establish more legitimate businesses, knowing that drug dealing wasn't a sustainable way to make money and would eventually lead to trouble. The sooner he could launder his money and transition to legal businesses, the safer he would be. This desire became even stronger after the birth of his 3 children. During his time as a drug dealer, Tyler married twice and had 3 children. Jordan Romano, the woman who was shot at the beginning of the story, was his girlfriend. The two had planned to marry in the near future, and Romano was 13 weeks pregnant. On the day of the incident, Romano was shot in the chest. Although she received help and was quickly taken to the hospital, she fell into a coma from the severity of her injuries before the ambulance arrived. Doctors found that the bullet had lodged near her heart. Due to the significant blood loss, the baby could not be saved. Most people believed that Romano's chances of survival were very slim. Since the victim was still in critical condition, the police couldn't get a statement about what happened or who fired the shots. Therefore, the investigators had to start from the crime scene to gradually gather clues. By examining the security cameras around the scene, the police discovered that at 5:05 p.m. on February 28th, 2 hours before the incident, a white Audi Q5 entered the industrial area's parking lot. Shortly after, a white Range Rover also drove in. At 5:54 p.m., the Audi Q5 left the industrial area, only to return just over 10 minutes later. At 6:12 p.m., the white Audi Q5 stopped at the roadside just outside the industrial area. At this point, a young woman got out of the car and walked back towards the warehouse area. A few minutes later, the same woman drove the white Range Rover out of the industrial area and to the Audi. Then, both vehicles quickly drove off and disappeared from the camera footage. The day after the incident, on March 1st, the police gathered significant clues. Someone reported that an illegally parked vehicle was at a construction site on Audley Street in the Etobicoke area of Toronto. Officer McGarry of the Toronto Police Department arrived at the site. Upon entering the construction area, he spotted a white Range Rover parked against traffic on Audley Street. After scanning the license plate, Officer McGarry found that the vehicle was wanted and immediately contacted the Hamilton police in charge of the case. When the officers arrived at the scene, they noticed clear signs of a collision on the vehicle. Not only were the 2 front doors unable to close, but there were also bloodstains on the bumper, driver's door, and passenger door. Notably, there was a distinct green scratch mark next to the driver's seat, matching the green metal wall of the warehouse. Additionally, investigators found Romano's blood on the dashboard, steering wheel, and other parts of the car. Since the front windshield was neither damaged nor had bullet holes, investigators deduced that the shooter stood outside the car and fired at Romano, who was in the driver's seat. The driver's side window or door must have been open. Additionally, there was a bullet hole in the driver's seat and a 9mm bullet lodged in the driver's side door. By comparing the bullet trajectory, the police found that this bullet matched those found on the ground at the industrial area, all fired from the same gun. This indicated that the assailant had fired 3 shots at Romano in the driver's seat, but fortunately only one hit her. During a thorough search of the vehicle, investigators found Tyler's driver's license and Romano's car insurance documents. The information on these documents showed that the car was new, registered under Romano's name, and had been purchased only a few months prior. Additionally, a Gucci handbag was found inside the car. When opened, it contained some makeup items and women's clothing. A particular short-sleeved t-shirt caught the police's attention. The shirt had the number 81 printed on it, a numerical symbol used by local Hells Angels supporters. This suggested that Romano might have connections to the criminal underworld. On the same day the Range Rover was found, the police also located the Audi Q5 captured on surveillance cameras on Green Street, not far from the crime scene. The license plates had been removed, the hood was badly damaged, and the car keys were discarded near the front passenger side wheel. Through investigating the VIN, the police discovered that the car belonged to a woman named Iris Lopez. During questioning, Iris stated that the car previously belonged to her, and her husband had removed the license plates at her request. She explained that on the afternoon of February 28th, she sold the car to a friend of her son. Iris had never met the buyer, only signed the transfer papers, and left the rest to her son. Upon examining the transfer documents, investigators identified the buyer as a man named Oliver Karafa. He was 28 years old, originally from Slovakia, but had immigrated to Canada with his family when he was young. As an adult, he lived a life of petty crime, making money by stealing cars, modifying them on the black market, and repainting them for sale. The police were well acquainted with Karafa, as he had gained national notoriety in Canada in 2012 due to a car accident. Around 2:30 a.m. on April 3, 2012, a then 19-year-old Karafa, driving under the influence and at twice the speed limit, caused the death of his 24-year-old Chinese friend, David Chiang. For causing the severe accident, Karafa was sentenced to 5 years in prison and had his driver's license revoked for 15 years in 2014. However, under Canadian law, despite the 5-year sentence, Karafa only served 3 years and was released in August 2017. Unfortunately, David's life was taken, and Karafa's punishment was only 3 years in prison. After his release, he was hired at a cafe in Toronto. Outwardly, Karafa seemed to have reformed, but inwardly, he still harbored malicious intentions. During the investigation of the Hamilton murder, the police suspected Karafa as the main perpetrator, as surveillance footage showed the Audi Q5 he bought for $10,000 at 1:49 p.m. on the day of the incident. The car hadn't yet been fitted with new license plates, but just a few hours after purchasing it, Karafa drove to the crime scene and abandoned the car by the roadside, even leaving the keys behind. Why would he waste such a large sum of money? The only reasonable explanation is that Karafa bought the car with the intent to assassinate Tyler that day. While the police were focusing their investigation on Karafa, the hospital delivered good news. After 3 days in a coma, Jordan Romano miraculously regained consciousness. Although she lost her unborn child and her boyfriend, Romano managed to muster the strength to reveal the name of the shooter to the police. In addition to Karafa, who was still a suspect, there was another accomplice at the scene. Karafa's girlfriend, Lucy Lee, 25 years old, and from a wealthy family. Lucy was born into a wealthy Chinese family, the eldest of 5 children, and one of 3 triplet sisters. The second triplet, Caitlin, graduated from the University of Toronto and is the CEO of a tech company. The youngest triplet, Lee Yunji, attended the Stern School of Business at New York University and founded the education consulting firm Pirone Academy after graduation. Their upbringing can be attributed to their mother, Liao Ziwei, a well-known entrepreneur in the Chinese community in Canada. Liao Ziwei hails from Hunan, earned her master's degree in the 1980s, and worked for the Shenzhen municipal government for 10 years. In December 1998, her family immigrated to Toronto, Canada. 2 years later, she founded Ruibang International Financial Group, specializing in insurance and financial management. In interviews, Liao Ziwei shared her educational philosophy and how she raised her 5 children to become independent and confident entrepreneurs. Regarding her daughter Lucy, she described her as an outstanding student at Harvard University. Although Liao Ziwei's educational advice sounds reasonable, the involvement of her eldest daughter Lucy, a Harvard graduate, in a murder case suggests her methods may not have been as successful as she claimed. Everything began after Lucy graduated from college and met Karafa, who had just been released from prison. Together, they formed a love story between a successful businesswoman and a rogue. At the hospital, Romano, upon regaining consciousness, recounted the events to the investigators based on her remaining memories. She explained that she and her fiancé, Tyler, were introduced to Lucy and Karafa through a mutual friend in 2020. Karafa had heard that Tyler was a drug kingpin and knew he was eager to establish legitimate businesses to launder his dirty money. So, in Tyler's presence, Karafa pretended to be a savvy investor, claiming he had many profitable legal businesses to introduce to Tyler. Initially, Tyler was skeptical of Karafa, but since Karafa's girlfriend, Lucy, indeed came from a wealthy family and her mother was well known, Tyler gradually lowered his guard and grew closer to Karafa. Then, in 2020, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, face masks became scarce worldwide. Karafa suggested that Tyler invest in a mask manufacturing plant in Europe, assuring him it would be highly profitable. Initially, Tyler invested $170,000. But after a few months, Karafa reported that the business was thriving, not only breaking even, but also generating substantial profits. Consequently, Tyler invested an additional $300,000, bringing his total investment to $470,000. According to Romano, by 2021, Karafa showed Tyler a bank statement indicating that the company's account in Prague had 12 million euros, reflecting a profit increase of at least 25 times. This wasn't just about selling masks. It was like printing money. However, problems arose when Tyler wanted to withdraw the money. Karafa explained that transferring such a large sum directly from Europe to Canada would undoubtedly attract tax authorities' attention. This could result in the bank account being frozen, the money confiscated, and even expose Tyler's drug trafficking operations. After consideration, Karafa proposed a new plan. He suggested that his girlfriend, Lucy's family, who worked in the insurance industry, could help. They could buy life insurance policies in Europe and then cash them out in Canada. It was later discovered that these life insurance policies were fraudulent, created by Lucy and Karafa together. In reality, their European protective equipment company was not making any money. This company, Shoe Go Go Limited, was established in Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic, by Karafa and another person, with Karafa holding a 50% stake. The company was founded on May 20, 2020, with a registered capital of $7,790. The bank transactions and accounting invoices were all fabricated to scam Tyler out of his money. At the time, Tyler and Romano were unaware of this and kept demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit shares. When Karafa realized he could no longer hide the truth, he decided to resort to murder. According to Romano, the relationship between the four of them was very good. Although she and Tyler lived in Vancouver, they frequently flew to Toronto to dine, party, and travel with Lucy and Karafa. Tyler considered Karafa a close friend, even buying an apartment in Toronto and planning to move there from Vancouver when the business improved. 10 days before the incident, on February 18th, which was Karafa's birthday, Romano said that she and Tyler gave him a diamond necklace. A week before that, Karafa had texted them about a planned trip to Italy in June. Just a few days before the incident, Lucy visited Romano's apartment in Toronto. The two had a great time chatting, with Lucy even asking Romano about her pregnancy and plans for a baby shower. Little did Romano know that Lucy would betray her so soon after. Romano recounted that on the day of the incident, she and Tyler arranged to meet Lucy and Karafa at the industrial area to check out a warehouse. Karafa had told them that the warehouse belonged to Lucy's mother, and they planned to lease it for cannabis cultivation. The plan was for all four of them to wait for the real estate agent, inspect the warehouse together, and sign the lease if it was suitable. That afternoon, Tyler drove the Range Rover with Romano to the warehouse. According to Romano, after meeting Lucy and Karafa, they chatted while waiting for the real estate agent. After about 20 minutes with no sign of the agent, it started to get dark, and light snow began to fall, so Tyler and Romano returned to the Range Rover to warm up. To facilitate conversation with Lucy and Karafa outside, Tyler rolled down both side windows of the car. Noticing that Lucy was shivering from the cold, Tyler invited her to sit in the driver's seat to warm up, while he stepped outside to talk with Karafa. Romano recalled that when Lucy got into the car, she kept her head down, typing on her phone. She didn't look up at Romano or engage in conversation. Romano felt that Lucy seemed tense and anxious at that moment. As Romano was trying to make awkward conversation, Lucy suddenly stood up and stepped out of the car without closing the door. A gust of cold wind blew in, so Romano instinctively moved from the passenger seat to the driver's seat to adjust the heater. However, before she could do so, Karafa suddenly appeared at the corner of the car, holding a gun. Romano said she immediately froze, her mouth open in shock but unable to speak. 3 shots rang out, one hitting her in the chest. Romano reacted by putting the car in reverse and pressing the gas pedal. Almost simultaneously, she heard Tyler shouting outside the car, followed by a series of gunshots. When Romano opened her eyes again, the car had crashed into a wall and come to a stop. In a desperate bid to survive, she endured the pain and tried to crawl forward, fortunately being discovered and assisted by Annette Bride. Based on the available evidence, 4 days after the incident, the police issued a warrant and released images of Karafa and Lucy, hoping the public could provide information about their whereabouts. Lucy's mother, through a lawyer, issued a statement saying that Lucy was a sensible girl and expressed hope that she would soon contact the police to cooperate with the investigation. By checking the surveillance cameras at Lucy's apartment, the police found footage of Lucy and Karafa in the elevator at 2:46 p.m. on the day of the incident. Less than an hour later, at 3:33 p.m., Lucy reappeared in different clothes, her face covered, and wearing a blonde wig. It's likely that Karafa used the emergency stairwell to avoid being caught on camera. Considering they lived on the 34th floor, Karafa's descent must have been time-consuming and strenuous. After completing the murder plan at the industrial area, the two drove the Audi and Range Rover to different locations to abandon them. Lucy then drove a gray SUV with Karafa back to their apartment around 1:30 a.m. on March 1st. At 2:48 a.m., the apartment's elevator camera in Toronto captured Karafa holding a black trash bag, with his back to the camera, while Lucy, wearing a mask, appeared slightly panicked. At this point, they were preparing to leave Canada. A few hours later, at 6:30 a.m., they drove north and stopped at the Grey Orchard General Store in Port Carling. The store clerk, Smith, recalled that before the store opened at 7 a.m., a gray SUV had been parked in the lot for some time. About an hour later, a young couple leisurely entered the store. They bought some drinks and snacks and then used the store's restroom. In the afternoon, the store owner, Chris, received a call from the store. His daughter told him that she had found a strange black plastic bag in the trash behind the store, and upon opening it, she discovered some bullets inside. Chris immediately called the police. When the investigators arrived, they found a pair of blood-stained pants, a hat, a blonde wig, and 40 rounds of 9mm ammunition in the bag. Upon investigation, the police discovered that these bullets matched those found at the crime scene. Unfortunately, by the time the police arrived, the suspects had long since fled. The question was, in a small place like Port Carling, where could they have escaped to by car? By investigating local taxi companies, the police found that at 6:50 a.m. on March 1st, shortly after parking at the general store, the pair had ordered a taxi. When they tracked down the taxi driver from that morning, he reported that the two initially planned to go to the bus station, intending to take a bus directly to Montreal Airport. However, when the driver mentioned that the bus wouldn't get them to their flight on time, the couple paid him $400 to take them straight to Toronto instead. The taxi driver recalled that he dropped them off at a subway station in Toronto. Surveillance cameras at the subway station captured their images at 9:48 a.m. on March 1st. Continuing their investigation, the police discovered that the pair took the subway from Toronto to Montreal, eventually boarding a plane at 4:40 p.m. the same day. Based on the information gathered, the police believe that approximately 24 hours after murdering Tyler Pratt and attempting to murder Romano, Oliver Karafa and Lucy Lee fled from Canada to Eastern Europe. On March 26, 2021, Hamilton police officially issued an international arrest warrant for Karafa and Lucy. They also reached out to various European media outlets, hoping the public could provide further information about the suspects. 3 months after the public manhunt, the police finally received good news. On June 12, 2021, Hungarian police announced the successful capture of the two fugitives in Budapest, the capital of Hungary. Canadian police expressed their gratitude for Hungary's assistance in the case. To apprehend the couple, Hungary had even deployed a special task force from the FAST, Fugitive Active Search Team unit. After gathering reliable information, they discovered that the two had been in Hungary for at least 2 weeks. Following a period of covert surveillance of Karafa and Lucy, the task force decided to move in and arrest the couple. On the night of June 12, 2021, the central area of District 6 in Budapest was bustling as usual. Amid the crowd under the nightlights were Karafa and Lucy. When the two appeared on 7th Avenue, east of the Danube River, the special task force moved in and successfully apprehended them. Subsequent investigations revealed that after fleeing Canada, they flew from Montreal to Frankfurt, Germany. They then traveled to Karafa's homeland, Slovakia, and hid at a relative's house, living there for a while using fake Slovakian identification. Realizing their situation was becoming precarious, they fled to the neighboring Czech Republic, eventually hiding in Prague. After their capture, Karafa refused extradition and appealed to the court, indicating his intention to resist to the end. Meanwhile, Lucy, perhaps tired of running, calmly accepted Canada's extradition request. She even seemed proud when she told the investigators that the Canadian police didn't need to pay for her plane ticket because her mother could hire a private jet to bring her back and the police could accompany her. Naturally, the police flatly refused her boastful offer. A month after her arrest, on July 12, 2021, Lucy was escorted by plane back to the Hamilton police station in Canada. During the interrogation, Lucy fabricated numerous exaggerated stories. Throughout this process, she appeared very relaxed and calm, seemingly unaware of the severity of her crimes. She even laughed loudly at times, not at all resembling someone accused of first-degree murder. Even those visiting the police station to pay speeding fines seemed more uncomfortable than she did. Lucy claimed that on the day of the incident, she was actually on the other side of the parking lot in the industrial area and was not with Karafa, so she had no idea what he had done. After hearing gunshots, Karafa ran over to her and said that Tyler had tried to kill him, forcing him to act in self-defense. Karafa told her it was a kill or be killed situation, so he had to shoot Tyler to protect himself. Considering Tyler's connections to the underworld, Lucy said she feared that Tyler's associates would come after her, so she felt compelled to flee with Karafa. Meanwhile, in Hungary, after numerous court sessions, the Budapest Court of Appeals ultimately rejected Karafa's appeal, and he was subsequently extradited to Canada to face trial. As for Lucy, the Supreme Court of Canada granted her bail on January 20th, 2022. The bail amount was set at 2.7 million Canadian dollars, with her mother posting $2 million and two friends providing the remaining $700,000. However, 4 months later, Lucy was arrested again. This time it wasn't because her trial date had arrived, but because she had flagrantly violated her bail conditions. Police reported that on May 20th, Lucy seriously breached 2 conditions. First, she left her home without permission to meet friends, and second, she contacted someone she was expressly forbidden by the court to communicate with. So, Lucy spent $2.7 million for 4 months of freedom. Do you think it was worth it? 3 years after the crime, in April 2024, the trial of Lucy and Karafa finally began. In court, Lucy's lawyer claimed that Romano was previously a stripper. After meeting Tyler, she began living a lavish lifestyle funded by her boyfriend's money, frequently dining at upscale restaurants and flying first class to Los Angeles and Dubai. Romano admitted that all her living expenses, including the Range Rover and the Toronto apartment, were paid for by Tyler with drug money. After the Range Rover was damaged, she even received a $90,000 insurance payout. Now that her source of money is gone and she lost the baby, it's clear that Romano harbors deep resentment towards Lucy and Karafa. Given her profession and her resentment, can the testimony of such a person be deemed reliable? Meanwhile, Lucy's lawyer portrayed her as a simple, even naive, and kind-hearted individual. According to the testimony, when Lucy learned that Tyler wanted Karafa's help to import young girls from Prague to Vancouver, she immediately recognized it as a disguised form of prostitution and human trafficking. Therefore, she firmly refused this proposal and did not allow Karafa to engage in illegal activities. On the other hand, prosecutor Mark Dean was equally resolute. He pointed out that Lucy's life insurance agent license had expired in 2019, so she could not legally sell any insurance products. She was fully aware that she was creating fake checks that could not be converted into money. Additionally, the prosecutor called an important witness, Fei Zheng. Fei Zheng testified that he had known Karafa for 10 years, and they were very close friends. Previously, they had worked together at a cafe where Fei Zheng was a chef and Karafa was a counter manager. About a week before the shooting, Karafa had asked him for a favor. Karafa said that on February 28th, he and his wife Lucy would have an important and highly confidential business meeting. Specifically, Karafa asked Fei Zheng and Lucy to swap their phone SIM cards for a few hours and then switch them back after the meeting was over. At 3 p.m. on February 28th, Fei Zheng arrived at Lucy and Karafa's apartment as agreed to swap SIM cards with Lucy. When he left, Karafa also left his phone behind. This meant that when Karafa went to the crime scene, he did not have his phone with him, while Lucy carried a phone with Fei Zheng's SIM card inside. Karafa thought that when the police traced the phone records, they would see the couple's phones near the apartment, thereby excluding them as suspects. However, what they didn't anticipate was that their car was clearly captured by a camera opposite the industrial area, and several images showed Lucy's face clearly. Additionally, Fei Zheng did not stay at Lucy's apartment all night. In court, Fei Zheng testified that he initially planned to swap the SIM cards back at 7 p.m., but Karafa and Lucy were late. According to Fei Zheng's testimony, he waited for Karafa and Lucy to return home, but they never showed up. Fei Zheng had to attend a friend's birthday party, so when he could no longer wait, he left Karafa's phone in the apartment and took Lucy's phone and SIM card with him when he went out. As a result, 9 months after the crime, in December 2021, a large police team raided Fei Zheng's apartment, charging him with first-degree murder, leaving him utterly terrified. Once he understood the situation, Fei Zheng decided to testify in court. Additionally, the prosecutor presented the testimony of a man named Mohammed Murad. According to Mohammed, he voluntarily contacted the police on March 1st. He explained that a few weeks before the crime, he had seen an online advertisement posted by Karafa to sell a gray Mercedes SUV. Attracted by the low price, Mohammed traveled from Montreal to Toronto to inspect the car. Apparently, the negotiation over the car's price became too intense, and they couldn't reach an agreement. However, Karafa mentioned that he also wanted to sell a Range Rover and an Audi Q5, which were the two vehicles used in the crime. Notably, this conversation happened in early February, indicating that Karafa had planned the murder well in advance. With his skilled bargaining, Mohammed managed to negotiate an incredibly low price, securing both vehicles for just 4,000 Canadian dollars, an unbelievably low price for two cars worth tens of thousands of dollars. According to the testimony, Karafa told Mohammed that the two vehicles were illegal. He instructed Mohammed to either smuggle the cars out of the country or dismantle them for parts. The agreed date for Mohammed to pick up the vehicles was March 1st, one day after the crime. However, at 7 p.m. on the day of the crime, Karafa texted Mohammed stating that both vehicles had been damaged in crashes and could no longer be smuggled out of the country. Therefore, they could only be dismantled for parts. Karafa proactively offered a 50% discount, reducing the price to just 2,000 Canadian dollars for both cars. As a result, when Officer McGarry discovered the Range Rover by the roadside the next day, the tow truck hired by Mohammed had just arrived. It was the lead from this tow truck that helped investigators locate Mohammed and subsequently find the abandoned Audi Q5. Prosecutor Mark Dean highlighted that not only did surveillance video confirm Lucy's full involvement in the activities of that day, but text message evidence also showed that Lucy had been part of the entire plan before the crime occurred. While she did not pull the trigger, she assisted Karafa in numerous ways, from helping him with the mask fraud scheme to planning the murder. She not only acted as the getaway driver, but also lent Karafa money to purchase the Audi used in the crime and ultimately helped him dispose of evidence and flee together. According to the prosecutor, Lucy undoubtedly participated in the crime and lied numerous times, leaving him stunned. If he had to use one word to describe Lucy, it would be the perfect accomplice. On the defense side, they made a bold final move by allowing Lucy to testify on her own behalf. Lucy stated that she was born in Shenzhen. When her parents immigrated to Canada, she and her two sisters were left in the care of relatives in China, Her father opened a driving school in Canada, and 2 years later, her mother started a financial company. When the family's financial situation improved, the three sisters were brought to Canada. Lucy attended Harvard Collegiate Institute for high school. She met Karafa when she was in the 9th grade, and he was in the 11th grade, having recently immigrated from Slovakia. They had a brief romantic relationship during high school, but they broke up by the time Lucy graduated at 17. After high school, Lucy enrolled at the University of Western Ontario and later transferred to Ryerson University. Unfortunately, she was short of 4 credits and did not complete her degree. Lucy stated that she and Karafa reunited when she was 23 years old. After their second date, they began living together. On May 16, 2020, a year before the crime, Lucy and Karafa were at the airport preparing to fly to Slovakia. However, they encountered a new wave of COVID-19. Before boarding, they were informed that if Lucy wanted to get on the plane, she had only one option: to become a Slovak citizen immediately. The only way to do that at the time was to get married on the spot. So, they registered for marriage online and went from being a couple to being husband and wife just before boarding the plane. Regarding the day of the crime, Lucy said it was no different from any other day. She woke up, went downstairs with her husband Karafa for breakfast, and discussed their plans for the day. In the evening, she had planned to visit her mother, Liao Ziwei, for dinner with her and her sisters. She hadn't seen her mother in a while, and she was sure her mother would ask if she wanted to consider helping with the family business. During the day, since Karafa didn't have a driver's license, he asked Lucy to drive him to a friend's house. Karafa mentioned he intended to buy an Audi Q5 from this friend to modify and then sell. Lucy said she didn't find anything unusual at the time and never imagined that the car would be involved in a murder. She explained that ever since she had known Karafa, he had always been involved in modifying and reselling cars. Lucy stated that after the crime occurred, while they were on the run, Karafa finally told her that he had decided to act first. At the industrial area, he planned to tell Tyler that all the previous business profits were fake. When Tyler got angry and a fight ensued, Karafa would draw his gun and kill both Romano and Tyler. Lucy described Karafa's plan as a premeditated act of self-defense. In summary, under her lawyer's careful guidance, Lucy tried to distance herself entirely from Karafa. However, her story had many holes and failed to convince the jury. Finally, after a grueling 7-week trial, on May 24, 2024, the jury unanimously found Karafa and Lucy guilty of first-degree murder of Tyler and attempted murder of Romano. The judge sentenced both to 25 years to life in prison and banned them from driving. After the verdict, both declared their intent to appeal and have since filed the necessary paperwork. While it's uncertain if Lucy and Karafa will succeed in their appeals, if the sentence stands, Lucy could be released when she's 50 years old. Although Lucy didn't achieve the success her mother envisioned, both academically and career-wise, had she chosen a different partner, perhaps she wouldn't have ended up on this destructive path. Dear viewers, remember to live responsibly, love deeply, and always keep in mind that every action has its consequences. No one is above the law, and our decisions affect not only our own lives, but also those around us. Thank you for following today's story. We look forward to seeing you in future episodes where we will continue to explore the hidden corners of life and the human soul. Goodbye.